Here's a moment every trader remembers, the first real loss. Not the small drawdowns, not the minor mistakes, but that one trade that cuts deep enough to make you question everything. The one that doesn't just hit your account, it hits your identity. You stare at the screen, and for the first time, it feels like the chart is staring back. The colors that once excited you now look hostile. Green used to mean hope. Now it feels like a taunt. Red isn't just a color anymore, it's a wound. You sit still, watching the candles move, but you're not really watching the market. You're watching yourself crumble in slow motion. The charts are still moving, ticking, pulsing alive, but inside you're silent. That kind of silence that only happens after shock, when the noise of your own thoughts is too heavy to bear. Somewhere inside, you whisper, almost afraid to speak it out loud. How did this happen? You think about the setups, the confirmations, the plan. You go over the checklist that once gave you confidence. Entry, stop loss, risk reward, all perfect on paper. Yet here you are, down, defeated, empty. All the theories you believed and suddenly sound like lies. You scroll through the chart again and again, try to find meaning in the chaos, trying to find the one mistake that explains the pain. But deep down, it's not just one mistake. It's everything. It's the illusion that you had control. It's the arrogance that made you think you could predict something as wild as human emotion condensed in a price action. You thought you were ready for risk, but you weren't ready for pain. Because pain doesn't appear on the chart. It appears in you. That's the moment the market stops being numbers and starts becoming a mirror. A brutal, flawless mirror that doesn't reflect your face. It reflects your truth. It shows you your fear, your ego, your greed, your hope, your weakness. Everything you try to hide under confidence. That first loss doesn't just take your money. It takes away your illusions. It exposes the side of you that you didn't know existed, the one that panics, hesitates, breaks. It shows you how fragile your belief really was. You thought the market was your enemy, but the truth is far worse. The enemy was your expectation. You thought you could outsmart the market, but now you see it's not a game of intelligence. It's a test of emotional strength. You watch the P&L drop, and each tick feels personal. You click around your platform, not to trade, but to escape the discomfort. You tell yourself you'll get it back. You open another chart, another setup, try to find revenge in a pattern. But the truth stares at you like an unblinking eye. It's not the market that took from you. It's your lack of discipline. And still you sit there, watching, thinking, blaming. Every trader does. It's part of the ritual. You find reasons, excuses, stories. Maybe the news. Maybe manipulation. Maybe bad luck. Anything to avoid the truth that your emotions made the decision long before your strategy did. The more you think, the heavier it feels. You start to realize this loss is not like any other. It's personal. It's heavy because it's real. You can't undo it, can't backtest it away, can't rationalize it. It's in your account, in your history, in your mind. You remember how confident you felt before the trade. The excitement when it started in your favor. The small rush of dopamine when you imagine the profits. And then the slow reversal, that familiar sinking feeling when green fades to red. You told yourself to trust your system. You told yourself to stay calm. But emotion doesn't care about plans. Emotion moves faster than logic. It blinds you before you even realize you've lost control. And that's how every trader gets baptized, not by success, but by loss. You close the trade, and the silence after it is louder than the loss itself. You stare at the number on the screen, minus something, but it's not the money that stings. It's what it represents. All your preparation, all your belief, reduced to a red line and a number in brackets. You can't look away. You keep staring, hoping it will change. It doesn't. It never does. The market doesn't feel your pain, doesn't care about your effort, doesn't owe you balance. It just keeps moving forward, indifferent, alive. And somewhere in that indifference, you begin to see something deeper. The market is pure truth. It rewards patience, punishes arrogance, and reveals who you really are. The first loss is the moment you stop being a dreamer and start becoming a realist. It forces you to look beyond your expectations and see your reflection for what it truly is. The market is not here to comfort you. It's here to shape you. Every loss, every red candle, every drawdown, they're chisels carving away the ego that keeps you blind. In those moments of stillness, when the chart no longer feels like a tool but a battlefield, you start asking yourself questions that cut deeper than strategy. Why am I doing this? What do I actually want from this game? Am I chasing wealth or proving something to myself? The loss doesn't answer those questions. It forces you to. Because now, every trade feels heavier, more sacred. You begin to understand that trading isn't about making money fast. It's about learning how to stand still while everything inside you screams to act. You scroll back through your trades, trying to find logic in the pain. You zoom in, zoom out, backtest mentally, but all you see are your own emotions disguised as decisions. Every click was a feeling. Every exit was a fear. Every mistake was ego pretending to be confidence. And in that realization, something shifts inside you. You stop fighting the market. You start observing it. The noise quiets down. You begin to see patterns not in price, but in yourself. That's when the market stops being your enemy and becomes your teacher. This is what initiation feels like: raw, unfiltered truth. It doesn't happen in profits. It happens in pain. It happens when you lose enough to finally listen. The market has a way of humbling you before it teaches you. It breaks your illusions so that what remains is discipline. It strips away comfort until all that's left is clarity. That first loss? It's not the end. It's the beginning of seeing the world and yourself differently. You start noticing that the best traders aren't fearless. They've just made peace with fear. They've walked through enough losses to stop running from them. They understand that loss is not failure. It's feedback. But that understanding doesn't come from books or mentors. It comes from experience, from scars, from nights you sit in silence questioning if you're built for this. That silence you feel after your first loss. That's where you either quit or evolve. That's where the real trader is born. You look around your workspace, the empty coffee cup, the notes, the indicators on your screen. Everything feels heavier now. This is no longer a hobby. It's a confrontation. You're not battling the market. You're battling yourself. You realize the market isn't trying to defeat you. It's trying to reveal you. Every loss is a mirror. Every trade a test. You can fake confidence on social media, but you can't fake discipline here. The chart exposes everything. Every hesitation, every impulse, every lie you tell yourself. And slowly, you begin to accept that. You begin to understand that pain is not punishment. It's purification. The first loss purifies your mindset. It filters out arrogance, entitlement, and overconfidence. It makes you humble enough to learn and disciplined enough to last. You begin to see that loss is not the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Every successful trader you admire has stood in this same silence, felt this same pain, stared at the same red chart wondering if they'd ever come back. The difference is they didn't run. Because you can't grow if you're afraid to lose. The market will test you until you stop reacting and start observing. It will hit you until you realize it's not your balance that needs protection. It's your mindset. The first loss shows you that profit doesn't define you. Patience does. You realize that trading is not about being right all the time, but about being alive long enough to play the next hand. And once you understand that, loss loses its power. You take a deep breath, your eyes still fixed on the chart. The pain is still there, but it feels different now. It's no longer chaos, it's clarity. You understand what this moment really is: initiation. The first test of your discipline, your patience, your ability to stay calm when everything inside you is breaking. It's the universe asking one simple question: are you serious? Because only the serious survive this game. Every trader must face this fire. The ones who can stand inside it without losing themselves become something greater. Not just better traders, but stronger individuals. Because trading is not just a market journey. It's a mental evolution. The first loss teaches you to detach, to observe, to trust the process instead of emotions. It's your entry into a different dimension, where wins are temporary, but control is forever. And one day, when you look back, You'll realize this was the moment everything changed. The moment you stopped pretending and started becoming. The market didn't break you, it built you. That loss wasn't the end, it was your initiation. You entered the arena that day, not as a winner, but as a student. The chart didn't punish you, it introduced you to yourself. And that's the lesson most never learn, that the loss you fear most is the one that finally frees you. Because the truth is, no trader becomes great through profit. Greatness is born in the silence after loss. When the screen fades to red, your emotions collapse, and yet you choose to stay. That choice, to stay, to face it, to endure, is where the transformation begins. Every loss tests your discipline. Every test shapes your edge. Every edge becomes why you don't realize how loud silence can be until you've taken a real loss. The charts keep flickering, the candles keep dancing, but inside it's just still. Like the market stole your breath along with your confidence. You close the trade, yet your hand still hovers over the mouse, trembling a little, as if hoping the screen might undo itself. It doesn't. The red number sits there like a scar. And that's when it begins. The emotional storm every trader faces but few ever talk about. At first, it's disbelief. You replay the trade in your head. Every tick, every candle, every decision. You tell yourself, maybe it was just bad luck. Maybe the market was manipulated. Maybe, but deep down, you know it wasn't luck. It was you. You ignored the signal. You moved the stop. You hesitated when you should have acted. You broke your own rules, and the market punished you for it. Not out of cruelty, but out of truth. Because the market doesn't care about your feelings. It only reflects your discipline. Then comes anger. Not just at the market, at yourself. You slam the desk, curse your decisions, scroll through forums looking for someone to blame. You compare charts, indicators, anything to justify that it wasn't your fault. You look for comfort in noise. But that noise drowns the lesson. You start thinking, I'll win it back. I'll double down on the next trade. I'll show this market who's in control. That's when your emotions become your executioner. Because revenge trading isn't about making money. It's about repairing your ego. And the ego never trades rationally. The worst part isn't the loss itself. It's what awakens inside you, fear. The kind of fear that makes your finger freeze before clicking buy. The kind that makes you second-guess even a perfect setup. Fear doesn't whisper, it screams. What if I lose again? What if I'm not built for this? You start seeing ghosts in every chart, traps in every move. And as that fear grows, your confidence shrinks. You go from executing plans to avoiding them. You stop trading setups, you start trading emotions. But here's the paradox. That fear is also your teacher. Because fear means you care. It means the game has become real to you. That's the test. The emotional storm isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to strip away everything that's weak. The arrogance, the overconfidence, the greed, all burned away until only discipline remains. You start to see patterns, not in the market, but in yourself. You notice how every time you chase a loss, you lose more. How every time you trade from frustration, the chart becomes your enemy. You realize that trading isn't about predicting moves, it's about mastering yourself. The charts don't change, you do. Every trade becomes a mirror reflecting your state of mind. Some nights, you'll lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if you were ever meant for this. You'll think about quitting. You'll envy those who seem to win effortlessly. You'll question everything, your methods, your intelligence, your dreams. But deep down, you'll hear a quieter voice. The one that says, this is part of it. The losses, the doubts, the frustration, they're not signs of failure. They're signs of growth. Every professional trader you admire has been here. Broken, uncertain, staring at the same screen, feeling the same pain. The difference is they didn't run from it. They sat in it. They learned from it. The emotional storm doesn't go away. It just changes shape. At first, it's chaos, wild, uncontrollable. Later, it becomes a pulse, familiar, almost rhythmic. You start to sense when fear is speaking instead of logic. You start to feel the edge between instinct and impulse. You start to realize that true mastery isn't silence of emotion, but control of reaction. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to trade through it. Then one day, something changes. You take another loss. Not small, not huge, just enough to sting. But this time, you don't panic. You breathe. You journal the trade. You analyze what went wrong. You remind yourself, it's part of the process. That's the initiation complete, when a loss stops defining your identity and starts refining your discipline. That's when you understand what seasoned traders mean when they say, losses are tuition. Because every loss teaches you a language the market speaks: discipline, patience, and respect. You stop seeing trading as a battle. You start seeing it as dialogue between you and the market. The market tests you, teases you, sometimes even tricks you. But it's never against you. It's your greatest teacher. Every spike, every fake out, every stop hunt, all designed to ask one question: can you stay calm? Because calmness is power. Not loud, not flashy, quiet, consistent, unstoppable. The emotional storm is the purification stage. It's where the market burns away your illusions, that you can control it, that you can predict it, that you can outsmart it. You can't, but you can align with it. You can flow with it. That's what separates gamblers from traders. Gamblers fight the storm. Traders learn to dance in it. Eventually, you learn to respect your losses. You stop hiding them. You stop fearing them. You treat them as feedback, not failure. And in that mindset shift, everything changes. Because the trader who respects loss is the one who wins long-term. The one who embraces pain as part of progress. The one who stops trying to get it back and starts trying to get better. You learn that markets don't punish. They reveal. They reveal who you are under pressure, who you become in chaos, and how much control you really have. Most traders think they're fighting the market, but they're really fighting their own reflection. The storm you face out there is the same storm inside you. Once you learn to calm that, the charts start making sense again. And that's when you realize something powerful. Discipline isn't born from success. It's forged in loss. Confidence isn't built when everything goes right. It's built when everything goes wrong and you still show up. Mastery isn't about never losing. It's about losing without losing yourself. Every great trader has walked through that emotional storm. Some get lost in it. Some drown in it. But the ones who rise, they come out different. Calmer, sharper, quieter. They stop needing to prove anything. They trade with clarity, not emotion. With conviction, not hope. Because once you've faced the storm within, the chaos outside can't shake you anymore. The emotional storm is not your enemy. It's your initiation into the truth of trading. That the market doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards discipline. It doesn't care how much you know. It cares how much you can endure. And once you understand that, losses stop hurting. They start teaching. You began this journey thinking trading was about predicting price. But now you know, it's about predicting yourself. The charts are your mirror. The losses are your mentors. And the storm? It's your forge. Every time you survive it, you don't just get closer to profitability, you get closer to mastery. Because in the end, the emotional storm doesn't destroy traders. It defines them, our strength. And that's where your initiation begins. Then one day, something changes. You take a loss, and you don't panic. You breathe. You accept. You watch. You feel the sting, but not the collapse. The ache, but not the desperation. The numbers fade into silence. And in that silence, you realize something sacred. You survived. The loss didn't destroy you. It revealed you. It stripped away the noise and left behind something truer. You look at the red on the screen, and for the first time, you don't see failure. You see feedback. You see truth staring back at you, raw and unfiltered, whispering that maybe for the first time, you're beginning to understand what this game was really about. The market never wanted to hurt you. It wanted to introduce you to yourself. Every spike, every drop, every false breakout, each one was a reflection of your emotions, your patience, your resilience. You thought the charts were about money. They were about mastery. They were about learning how to stay calm when everything around you moves faster than you can think. You realize now that trading never tested your skill, it tested your soul. You remember your first losses, the panic, the self-doubt, the way your chest tightened when price went against you. You remember refreshing the screen 100 times, hoping for a miracle candle that would make it all okay. But miracles don't come in charts. They come in discipline. And today, something inside you feels disciplined. Not rigid, not emotionless, just aware. You're aware of your breathing, your posture, your thoughts. You watch them like you watch a chart, objectively, quietly. The market moves, you move with it. You stop trying to control it. You start listening. Every candle is a conversation now, not a confrontation. You begin to understand that the rhythm of trading is not war, it's music. Some days it's fast and chaotic, other days it's slow and meditative. But underneath it all is a pattern, a flow, a heartbeat, and you're finally in sync with it. You take another trade. It's small, calculated. You set your stop, your target, your plan. You click buy, then walk away. No heart racing, no whispering prayers to the screen. Just quiet faith in your process. You used to think confidence came from winning. Now you know it comes from detachment. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite it. And when a market stops you out, you don't flinch. You journal the loss, analyze it, move on. You realize the power was never in the result. It was in the response. Loss didn't take your peace this time. It gave you perspective. You begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Trust. Not in the market, but in yourself. You start to notice how everything in trading mirrors everything in life. The impatience you feel waiting for setups is the same impatience that ruins opportunities in the real world. The greed that pushes you to over-leverage is the same greed that ruins relationships, pushes people too far, demands too much too soon. The fear that makes you exit too early is the same fear that keeps you from chasing your bigger dreams. The market isn't a teacher, it's a mirror of your humanity. The awakening deepens. You see how much of your life was driven by the need to win. Every profit was validation, every loss a wound. You were addicted to results, not progress. But now progress feels like peace. A losing trade where you followed your plan feels more satisfying than a random win. You smile at that realization. It's proof that you're evolving. You begin to enjoy the process again. Not the thrill, not the adrenaline, but the artistry. You find beauty in analysis, in structure, in patience. You spend mornings studying quietly, sipping coffee while candles form. You don't chase trades anymore. You let them come to you. You understand that the market rewards those who wait, not those who force. And with that patience comes power, the quiet kind, the sustainable kind. Your emotional chart starts flattening. The highs of wins, the lows of losses, they level out into calm steadiness. You used to crave excitement. Now you crave balance. You used to trade to escape emotion. Now you trade to understand it. The chaos that once terrified you now fascinates you. You see yourself in every move, your hesitation and consolidation, your anger in impulsive spikes, your clarity in clean trends. One night, you sit in front of your journal, flipping through pages of past notes. You read the words written months ago: anger, frustration, doubt. You smile. That person was lost in reaction. This person is reborn in awareness. You write a new sentence at the bottom of the page. I don't trade the market anymore. I trade my mind. And it's true. You begin to treat every trading day like meditation. You open the charts, breathe, observe. You don't predict, you respond. You don't panic, you prepare. You start appreciating the silence between trades, the stillness of waiting. You realize that not trading is also trading. Discipline is an action too. The old you would have mocked the idea of sitting out. The awakened you know that restraint is the ultimate strength. Sometimes the market will test this new version of you. It will throw traps that once fooled you, temptations that once triggered you. But you'll smile now because you see through them. The same way an old song loses its power after you've heard it too many times, those emotional traps lose their hold on you. The same setups that used to provoke greed now invite patience. The same volatility that once brought chaos now feels like rhythm. You're no longer reacting. You're interpreting. You realize that trading mastery isn't about predicting price. It's about predicting yourself, knowing how you'll feel, what you'll think, and how you'll act under pressure. The market doesn't reward knowledge. It rewards awareness. And awareness comes only from pain that's been understood, not avoided. The awakening feels less like a moment and more like a gradual dawn. The light doesn't burst, it spreads slowly. You begin to smile more, not because you're making more money, but because you're losing less peace. You understand that financial freedom without emotional control is just another form of slavery. You start protecting your mental capital the way you protect your trading capital. You stop overspending energy on things that don't move the needle. You stop explaining your strategy to people who don't trade. You stop trying to prove you're right and start aiming to stay aligned. The market becomes your mirror, but also your meditation mat. The charts are your temple. The losses, your prayers. The discipline, your devotion. You stop seeking excitement from trading. You seek enlightenment from it. Because that's what this really is, a spiritual pursuit disguised as a financial one. The path from chaos to clarity, from greed to grace. Days turn into months, and with each one, you realize that mastery isn't an achievement. It's a lifestyle. The market no longer feels like something outside you. It feels like an extension of your consciousness. When it's calm, you're calm. When it's wild, you breathe deeper. You stop trying to time perfection. You focus on probability, patience, and psychology. You begin to respect uncertainty because you understand that without it, there would be no opportunity. You once saw risk as a threat. Now you see it as a bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without risk, there's no reward. Without vulnerability, there's no growth. Every time you risk a little capital, you're really risking a piece of comfort, and that's how you evolve. People around you notice the difference. You speak less, you observe more. You don't boast after wins, and you don't hide after losses. You become centered. Friends ask, how do you stay so calm when the market crashes? You smile and say, because I crashed before, and I survived. That's the heart of awakening. Understanding that you've already lived through your worst days and came out wiser. The market can't scare you with what you've already faced. Every loss was a rehearsal for resilience. Every drawdown was training for emotional stability. You're no longer scared of losing money. You're scared of losing focus. Your trading plan becomes a reflection of your values. Simplicity replaces complexity. You delete half your indicators, clear your chart, and trust your naked eye. You realize clarity isn't in adding more, it's in removing noise. You start applying that same philosophy to life. You declutter your space, your habits, your circle. You keep what brings peace, you let go of what brings pressure. You find yourself waking up early not to chase trades, but to connect with silence, with intention. You start your day with gratitude, not greed. You thank the market before every session, even if it takes from you. Because you know now, it never really takes. It teaches. You begin to understand that the goal of trading was never to get rich, it was to become whole. To learn patience, discipline, and acceptance in a world built on impulse. To learn how to face uncertainty without losing yourself. To learn how to act with clarity when everyone else reacts with fear. And one day, while watching a quiet market, you realize something profound. You don't need the next trade to feel complete. You already are. The charts are no longer an escape. They're a reflection of peace you carry within. You've transcended the addiction to outcome. You no longer need wins to feel worthy. You remember the version of yourself who once begged the market for validation, who overtraded to feel alive, who measured self-worth in profit and loss. You feel compassion for that person, not shame. Because without that chaos, there would be no clarity. Without those losses, there would be no awakening. You close your eyes and smile. The sound of market ticks feels like waves now, predictable yet wild, temporary yet eternal. You breathe. You whisper, thank you. Not to the charts, not to the profits, but to the journey, to the lessons, to the pain that purified you. Because that's what trading really does. It doesn't just make traders. It makes monks of discipline, philosophers of patience, warriors of emotion. It teaches surrender without defeat, confidence without arrogance, courage without recklessness. It teaches you that control isn't about domination. It's about understanding limits. Now, every loss feels lighter. Every win feels humbler. You celebrate growth, not gain. You measure success by how little the market can shake your peace. Because that's the final stage of awakening, when you stop trading for freedom and start trading from freedom. The market remains unpredictable, chaotic, untamed, but you are no longer its victim. You're its reflection, its student, its equal. You finally understand the unspoken rule whispered by every great trader who came before you. The goal was never to beat the market. The goal was to master yourself. And when you do, you realize there was never any enemy. There was only evolution. Losses don't ask for your money. They ask for your patience. They ask, can you stay calm when your ego screams? Can you stay grounded when your chart bleeds red? Discipline isn't born in profits. It's forged in the moments you want to quit but don't. That's the real exam. Not the back test. Not the setup. But your ability to stay unmoved when everything in you wants to break. Every loss is a question. Your reaction is the answer. You see, discipline is the invisible force that separates the ones who endure from the ones who vanish. It's not about how perfect your strategy is. It's about how perfectly you can remain still while the world burns around you. The market will test you with chaos, with temptation, with uncertainty so loud it drowns your logic. And in that storm, your true nature is revealed. Do you chase or do you wait? Do you crumble or do you breathe? Every candle that moves against you is a mirror reflecting your own mind back at you. The undisciplined see panic. The disciplined see data. At first, you think discipline is about control. Control of the market, control of results. But slowly, painfully, you realize it's never been about control. It's about surrender. You don't control outcomes. You control reactions. You don't predict the next move. You prepare for it. The disciplined trader accepts randomness. He understands that uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's the environment. To fight it is to lose. To flow with it is to master. Every trade is a negotiation between emotion and logic. Emotion wants revenge. Logic wants reason. Emotion screams for validation. Logic whispers for patience. And in that noise, discipline is the bridge. It connects your plan to your behavior. Without it, even the best setup is just an impulse dressed in confidence. You can't fake discipline. You can't pretend to be calm when your heart is racing and your hands hover over the mouse. The truth always leaks through your actions. You'll sit through days where nothing moves. Hours of silence. You'll feel boredom clawing at your mind, whispering that maybe you should just do something. But that's the test. Can you sit still when doing nothing is the right thing? Most can't. Most crave motion because it feels like progress. But in trading, movement without reason is destruction. The disciplined learn the hardest lesson of all. That patience is a position. Waiting isn't a weakness. Its strength is refined through restraint. There's a reason the great traders speak softly about discipline. They know it isn't glamorous. It's not something you can post about. It's invisible, thankless, repetitive. It's closing the screen when every cell in your body wants to chase. It's respecting your stop, even when your ego screams that you're right. It's watching opportunities slip away because your system said no, and being at peace with that. Discipline doesn't give you dopamine. It gives you distance. Distance from chaos. Distance from regret. You learn this truth the hard way. The market teaches through pain. It teaches through loss, through frustration, through watching your emotions cost you again and again. You tell yourself next time will be different. You'll be calmer, smarter, stronger. But then the candles turn red again and your discipline melts. Because discipline isn't something you can promise. It's something you prove. Every day, every decision. There's a moment every trader meets, the breaking point. The chart moves violently against you. The loss feels personal. Your throat tightens. Your pulse pounds. You hover over the mouse, desperate to act, to fix it, to make the pain stop. That's the moment discipline either holds or you fall. And if you fall, you learn. Because every time you break your own rule, you see the cost written in numbers and emotion. And eventually, the pain of breaking discipline becomes heavier than the discomfort of keeping it. That's when growth begins. You start noticing that discipline isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about guiding it. You can't silence fear, but you can give it structure. You can't eliminate greed, but you can define its boundaries. The disciplined trader doesn't seek to be emotionless. He seeks to be emotionally intelligent. He uses emotion as feedback, not as fuel. When fear appears, it signals risk. When greed whispers, it signals danger. Discipline translates those feelings into decisions. And over time, the noise softens. You still feel the pulse of the market, but you no longer chase it. You wait for alignment. You realize that discipline is not restriction, it's protection. It's what stands between you and the market's chaos. Every rule you once hated becomes armor. Every limit becomes freedom. Because true freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's doing what's right, even when you don't want to. The journey isn't linear. You'll fall back into old patterns. You'll catch yourself forcing trades, over-leveraging, breaking plans. And each time, the market will humble you. But instead of shame, you'll start to feel awareness. You'll stop blaming the market and start studying yourself. That's the turning point. When you realize the problem was never the setup, it was your state of mind. The charts are neutral. The reaction is personal. Discipline is lonely. There's no crowd cheering when you sit out trade. There's no applause for patience. People celebrate profits, not restraint. But the ones who truly last, they know. They understand that skipping a bad trade is as valuable as winning a good one. They know that longevity is built on boredom. Because excitement belongs to gamblers. Stillness belongs to masters. It's strange how discipline feels at first like suffocation. You want freedom. You want to click, to act, to chase every flicker of movement. But later, when you look back, you see that the rules you hated saved you. Every stop loss you respected protected your capital. Every session you skipped saved your sanity. Discipline doesn't limit you. It preserves you. It's the quiet structure that lets you stay in the game long enough to grow. You begin to see discipline everywhere. In your sleep schedule, in your morning routine, in your breathing. You realize trading discipline and life discipline are the same thing. You can't be chaotic outside and calm inside the market. Your habits bleed into your performance. The way you do one thing becomes the way you do everything. So you start to live differently, not because someone told you to, but because you feel the cost of inconsistency. You wake up earlier. You prepare with intention. You stop reacting to noise. You stop scrolling through social media for signals. You focus on your process. You start trusting silence more than opinions. And gradually, discipline becomes less of an effort and more of an identity. It's no longer something you force. It's who you are. You don't have to remind yourself to stay patient. You just do. The chaos still exists, but no longer owns you. The market has a strange way of rewarding patience. Not immediately, but inevitably. You'll wait for days with nothing happening. Then one clean move will pay for all your silence. That's when you understand the market doesn't pay the impatient. It taxes them. Every impulsive trade is a donation to the disciplined. Every broken rule funds someone else's consistency. The market isn't cruel. It's fair. It simply mirrors your discipline back to you. There's a quiet pride that comes with discipline, the kind no one else sees. The pride of closing early when greed says hold. The pride of taking a small loss instead of a big one. The pride of ending the day flat, but peaceful. Because peace, that's the real profit. You stop chasing money and start chasing mastery. The numbers stop defining your worth. Your composure does. You stop asking, how much can I make? And start asking, how well can I execute? You begin to notice the shift. You used to trade for adrenaline. Now you trade for alignment. You used to react to every flicker of price. Now you wait for confirmation. You used to need the market to prove you right. Now you only need yourself to act right. That's the essence of discipline. Not to win every trade, but to win every decision. Because if your process is consistent, your results will follow. It just takes time, but discipline will test you endlessly. It will test you on red days when nothing works. It will test you on green days when success tempts arrogance. Because discipline isn't just about surviving losses, it's about managing wins. The ego that celebrates recklessly after a profit is the same ego that panics during a loss. Discipline keeps both in check. It reminds you that trading isn't about excitement, it's about endurance. You'll learn to respect the slow days. You'll learn that boredom isn't the enemy. It's a signal that your strategy is filtering noise. You'll sit in silence, and instead of discomfort, you'll feel strength. Because every second you wait for the right setup, you're practicing control. And control compounds. Over weeks, over months, over years, it becomes unshakable. There's a moment when discipline transforms from effort into energy. You start to feel it flow through you effortlessly. The same impulse that once made you chase now makes you pause. The same tension that once made you overtrade now makes you breathe. That's when you realize the battle was never with the market. It was always within. The charts didn't change, you did. Discipline turns chaos into rhythm. You start to see the market not as random, but as repetition. Fear and greed cycle endlessly, but you no longer ride the wave. You watch it. You start to anticipate emotion like a pattern. You can sense when others are panicking, when they're euphoric, and you use that as a signal. The same emotions that once controlled you now inform you. That's the gift of discipline. It gives you perspective. You no longer crave certainty. You crave structure. You stop asking what will happen and start asking what will I do if it happens. That's real preparation. Discipline teaches you to think in contingencies, not fantasies. You plan for loss before you hope for gain. You set limits before you chase targets. And that planning, though dull, is what gives you peace. Because peace doesn't come from knowing outcomes. It comes from knowing yourself. There will always be temptation, the urge to over-leverage, the desire to make back what you lost, the fantasy of one big win to fix it all. That voice never disappears. But now you recognize it. You smile when it appears. You know it by name, ego. And discipline quietly reminds you, ego doesn't trade, it gambles. Ego doesn't plan, it reacts. Ego doesn't build, it burns. Every disciplined act is a rejection of ego. When you wait, you're saying, I don't need the market to prove me right. When you stop trading after hitting your limit, you're saying, enough is enough. When you respect your risk, you're saying capital matters more than pride. Those small choices build empires of longevity. They make you anti-fragile, stronger after every test. One day, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. You'll remember the impulsive version of you, the one who chased, who panicked, who thought more trading meant more progress. You'll almost laugh, not out of mockery, but gratitude. Because without those failures, you would have never built this calm. The chaos taught you what stillness couldn't. The pain showed you what theory hid. The losses were never losses. They were lessons disguised as setbacks. And then discipline becomes faith. Faith that your edge works over time. Faith that patience pays. Faith that silence is strategy. You no longer seek external proof. You are the proof. You've seen it in your results, your reactions, your resilience. You've learned that the real edge isn't a secret setup. It's emotional endurance. So you keep showing up. You take your trades. You take your stops. You follow your rules. You end the day content, not because you won, but because you obeyed your own system. That's mastery. When obedience replaces obsession, when composure replaces chaos. You start to enjoy the process more than the profit. Because you know, money follows a mindset. Discipline makes you dangerous. Not because you trade aggressively, but because you trade precisely. The undisciplined panic when a market moves fast. You, on the other hand, move slowly. You adapt. You stay patient. You wait for confirmation, and when you act, it's deliberate. There's no rush, no desperation, no noise. Just clarity. And clarity is expensive. You bought it with mistakes, sleepless nights, frustration, and humility. But once you have it, you never trade the same again. You don't see randomness, you see rhythm. You don't fear volatility, you understand it. You don't chase, because you know what's meant for your plan will align with your patience. At the end of the day, when you close your charts and reflect, you realize discipline gave you more than trading skill. It gave you peace. It gave you identity. It gave you freedom from your own chaos. You no longer live in reaction. You live in intention. You no longer fight the market. You flow with it. The market still tests you, of course. It always will. But now those tests feel different. They don't shake you. They sharpen you. You start to welcome them. Because every test is another chance to prove your control. Every loss is another chance to refine your edge. Every day is another chance to stay calm when everything else screams panic. And in that silence, that stillness, that sacred pause between impulse and action, you realize that discipline was never just about trading. It was about becoming the kind of person who can hold peace in chaos, patience in pressure, and purpose in uncertainty. That's the real victory. Because in the end, every chart, every setup, every system is just a reflection of the one thing that truly matters, the mind behind it. Discipline doesn't make trading easy. It makes it possible. Without it, everything crumbles. With it, even failure becomes the foundation. So when the market asks its question again, when it tempts, when it moves, when it tests, you already know the answer. You breathe. You wait. You stay still. You remember who you've become. And that's when you realize the test of discipline never ends, but neither does your strength to face it. Because now you are calm inside the storm. And nothing, not fear, not loss, not chaos, can move you anymore. You see, loss was never your enemy. It was your initiation, your entry into the real arena of trading, where the weak chase wins and the strong master themselves. Now, when you face a losing trade, you don't flinch, because you understand this is part of the ritual. Every great trader has walked through this fire. Every discipline was born from pain. Every edge was shaped by loss. You don't fear it anymore. You welcome it, because you know loss isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your evolution. Loss equals initiation. Every loss tests your discipline, and every test shapes your destiny. You remember how it felt when you started, how every red candle felt like a wound, how every stop out felt like failure. But now it's different. Losses no longer break you. They build you. You've stopped seeing them as punishment and started seeing them as proof that you're playing the real game. This isn't about being right. It's about becoming ready. Ready to face uncertainty. Ready to face yourself. The market doesn't reward perfection. It rewards endurance. And endurance is born through initiation, through pain, patience, and persistence. Every trader wants success. Few are willing to bleed for it. But you've learned to bleed with purpose, to endure the discomfort, to stay through the chaos, to watch your ego dissolve until only awareness remains. That's the initiation, the stripping away of illusion. You once thought trading was about charts, setups, and systems. But now you see, it's about character. Because before you master your craft, you must master your impulses. Before you conquer the market, you must conquer your fear. The market is a mirror, and loss is its teacher. Every time you take a loss, it whispers a truth you need to hear. Sometimes it tells you you're overconfident. Sometimes it tells you you're impatient. Sometimes it tells you nothing, just silence, forcing you to sit with uncertainty until you learn to be still. That stillness is where strength is forged. It's where emotional noise fades and awareness begins. In that silence, you stop asking, "Why did I lose?" and start asking, "What did I learn?" You begin to see patterns, not just on the chart, but within yourself. How you react to loss, how you attach to outcomes, how you chase validation. Each loss reveals a layer of who you are beneath the surface. That's the initiation, the journey from ignorance to awareness, from reaction to reflection. You stop fighting the market and start flowing with it. You learn that mastery isn't about prediction, it's about alignment. Alignment with your rules, your plan, your emotional rhythm. You stop trying to control the storm and start becoming calm within it. That's the secret no one tells you. The more you try to fight loss, the deeper it cuts. The more you accept it, the more it teaches. Acceptance doesn't mean surrender. It means understanding. Understanding that loss is not a setback. It's a signal. A signal that you're in the arena, that you're doing the real work. Those who fear loss never grow. Those who face it evolve. You've crossed that threshold now. You've earned your scars. They're not signs of weakness. They're proof of initiation. Every scar tells a story of mistakes, of lessons, of resilience. They remind you that pain is temporary, but wisdom is permanent. And wisdom is what separates the traders who last from the ones who leave. Loss taught you humility. It stripped away the illusion of control. It humbled your ego until you could finally see the truth. There is no control, only adaptation. There is no certainty, only probability. And yet, within that uncertainty, you found peace. Because now, you don't need to know what happens next. You only need to know how you'll respond. That's the power of initiation. It transforms fear into awareness. You no longer seek to avoid loss. You seek to understand it. You no longer chase the market. You dance with it. Every move, every pause, every breath becomes part of your ritual. Loss is no longer a threat. It's a teacher standing beside you, reminding you to stay humble, to stay patient, to stay disciplined. Because discipline is the bridge between loss and growth. Every time you follow your plan in the face of pain, you strengthen that bridge. Every time you resist revenge trading, you solidify your edge. Every time you take a stop with acceptance instead of anger, you evolve a little more. The initiation isn't one moment. It's a lifetime process. The fire never ends. But over time, you learn to walk through it without burning. You learn that your emotional reactions used to be your real losses. The money was just a symptom. Now, when you lose, you don't spiral. You reflect. You adapt. You refine. That's the mark of transformation. You've stepped out of the cycle of chaos and into the rhythm of mastery. And that rhythm, steady, unshaken, is what defines every great trader. They don't escape loss. They coexist with it. They don't fear it. They respect it. Because they know the truth. Without loss, there is no learning. Without pain, there is no growth. Without failure, there is no resilience. The initiation is brutal because it's honest. It exposes every weakness you try to hide. But that exposure is freedom. Because once you face your own chaos, nothing outside can shake you. You stop needing to prove anything to anyone. Not to the market, not to others, not even to yourself. You trade not to win, but to express alignment. Every click, every entry, every exit is an act of awareness. And that awareness, that ability to remain centered amid chaos, is your real edge. The initiation has changed you. You no longer trade for money. You trade for mastery. You no longer fear the red. You study it. You no longer run from discomfort. You use it. Every loss now feels less like pain and more like polishing, a refinement of the self. The fire that once burned you now forges you. You realize that trading was never about becoming rich. It was about becoming whole. You learned discipline, not because someone told you to, but because without it, you couldn't survive. You learned patience, not because it's a virtue, but because it's the only way to see clearly. You learned self-trust, not through winning, but through enduring. That's what loss gave you, the foundation to stand unshaken in a world built on uncertainty. You look back at your journey and smile, not because it was easy, but because it was real. Every breakdown, every doubt, every sleepless night built the version of you that exists today. The one who doesn't chase, doesn't fear, doesn't flinch. The one who understands that the market isn't an opponent. It's a reflection. And through that reflection, you found yourself. You realized that the goal was never to escape loss. The goal was to understand it so deeply that it no longer has power over you. The day you stop fearing loss is the day you become unstoppable. Because loss can only hurt what you're attached to, and you've detached from the outcome. You're no longer trading for approval, for redemption, or for ego. You're trading for clarity, for discipline, for purpose. That initiation completed, not as an ending, but as a beginning. Because the real initiation isn't about surviving one loss. It's about evolving through every single one. It's about walking in the market every day, knowing that pain may come, and meeting it with peace. You've learned to breathe through volatility, to find stillness in chaos, to choose logic over emotion, to trust process over impulse. That's mastery, born from initiation. Every trader seeks an edge, a secret, a shortcut. But the truth is the edge is within. The market is chaotic. You're the constant. The stronger your discipline, the calmer your mind, the clearer your execution, the less the market can shake you. That's what loss taught you. The real battle was never with price. It was with patience. Every time you stayed still when you wanted to act, you won. Every time you accepted a stop without resentment, you evolved. Every time you kept your focus through pain, you ascended. And now, every loss feels sacred. It's no longer punishment. It's preparation. Preparation for something greater. Because the trader who can endure loss without losing discipline has already won. You see, loss was never your enemy. It was your teacher, your mentor, your mirror. It didn't come to destroy you. It came to introduce you to yourself. That's initiation. That's transformation. That's freedom. The kind of freedom only earned through chaos. You are not the trader you once were. You've evolved, sharpened by pain, tempered by patience, defined by discipline. And now, every time the market tests you, you smile. Because you understand what it's really asking. Are you still who you were before the loss? And your calm silence answers louder than words ever could. Loss equals initiation. Every loss tests your discipline. And every test shapes your destiny. And now, you finally understand. You were never losing. You were becoming.